Elena Vasquez had scrubbed floors in 5 different countries before she ever set foot in the marble-floored mansion on Embassy Row in Washington, D.C. Her hands were calloused from years of cleaning hotel rooms in Madrid, washing dishes in a Paris bistro, and caring for elderly patients in a cramped Berlin apartment. At 40, 7 years old with graying hair pulled back in a simple bun, she looked like someone the world had forgotten. But Elena carried something precious that no one could see. Inside her worn-out shoes and faded cardigan lived a mind that danced between Spanish, English, French, German, and Arabic with the grace of a trained diplomat. Languages had been her escape from poverty, her late night companions when she studied by candlelight as a young girl in rural Colombia, dreaming of a world beyond the coffee farms where her parents had worked themselves into early graves. The Harrison family hired Elena because she was the only applicant willing to work for barely above minimum wage. Ambassador James Harrison and his wife Victoria needed someone immediately after their previous nanny quit without notice. They barely glanced at Elena during the interview, too distracted by their phones and the constant demands of diplomatic life. Their 12-year-old daughter Sophie sat in the corner of the study that day, her blonde hair falling over a book she pretended to read. But Elena noticed how the girl's eyes followed her, curious and somehow sad, like someone searching for something real in a house full of beautiful fake things. Elena started work the next Monday. The mansion was cold despite its expensive heating system, filled with important paintings and furniture that no one was allowed to touch. Sophie spent most of her time alone in her room, homeschooled by tutors who came and went like clockwork. The girl spoke perfect French from her years in Paris, when her father was stationed there, and she practiced German phrases for an upcoming family posting to Berlin. But she rarely spoke at all to her parents, who worked 18-hour days and attended glittering parties where everything sparkled except the conversations. In those first weeks, Elena simply did her job quietly. She prepared meals that Sophie barely touched, organized schedules that were constantly changed, and cleaned rooms that never really got dirty because no one spent time in them. But she also watched. She noticed how Sophie would pause outside her parents' home office, hand raised to knock, before walking away when she heard them on conference calls. She saw the girl's face light up when the mail arrived, hoping for letters from friends at her old international school, only to find nothing but official documents and charity event invitations. One rainy afternoon in late October, Elena found Sophie crying in the library. The girl tried to hide her tears, but Elena sat down quietly beside her and began speaking in gentle French about a story her own grandmother once told her, about a little bird who felt lonely in a golden cage. Sophie looked up, surprised to hear the nanny speak her second language so fluently. That was the beginning of their real friendship. In the weeks that followed, they would spend hours together while Elena worked, switching between languages like old companions sharing secrets. Sophie taught Elena American slang she had missed while living abroad, and Elena shared stories about the places she had been, the people she had met, making the world feel both bigger and more connected than Sophie had ever imagined. The girl began to bloom. She would help Elena fold laundry while they practiced Arabic phrases, giggling at Elena's descriptions of trying to order food in a Moroccan market and accidentally asking for a camel instead of a meal. They baked Colombian pastries together, and Sophie talked about how invisible she felt in her own home, how she wished her parents would notice her the way they noticed state dinners and political negotiations. Elena listened with her whole heart, never judging, just understanding. She knew what it meant to be overlooked, to a value that others could not see. Then came the day everything changed. It was a gray November morning, and Elena was walking Sophie to her piano lesson 3 blocks away. The Harrisons had finally agreed to let Sophie attend group music classes, a small victory toward a more normal childhood. 2 men in a dark van had been following them for several minutes. Elena noticed, because she had learned long ago to pay attention to her surroundings, a survival skill from years of navigating unfamiliar cities with little money. When the van suddenly stopped beside them and the door slid open, Elena's body moved before her mind could fully process the danger. She grabbed Sophie and pushed her behind a parked car, yelling in Arabic to a nearby shopkeeper who stood frozen in his doorway. The words tumbled out with perfect fluency, urgent and clear. Call the police. Kidnapping. Now. The shopkeeper, a Syrian immigrant, understood instantly and ran inside. One of the kidnappers rushed toward them, shouting commands in accented English, but Elena stood her ground, placing herself between him and Sophie. She switched to his language, recognizing the dialect, speaking in rapid-fire Chechen, a variant she had picked up from a friend in Berlin. Her words were sharp and strategic. telling him the police were already coming, that cameras were everywhere on this street, that they had seconds to escape before their faces would be on every screen in America. The man hesitated, surprised to be understood. His partner was screaming from the van, panicking. Elena kept talking, her voice steady despite her racing heart, explaining in his own language that the ransom they wanted would never materialize if they were caught in the act, that the ambassador had diplomatic immunity, but they would spend their lives in American prisons. She was bluffing about some of it, but her confidence and fluency made it sound true. Behind her, Sophie was crying but staying quiet, pressed against the cold metal of the car. The kidnapper looked between Elena and his partner, calculating odds, wasting precious seconds. Then sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. The men jumped back in their van and sped away, tires screaming against pavement. Elena collapsed against the car, pulling Sophie into her arms. The girl was shaking uncontrollably, and Elena held her tight, whispering soothing words in Spanish, the language of her own mother's comfort, until the police arrived. The next hours were chaos. The Harrisons rushed home from their offices, pale and terrified. FBI agents filled the mansion asking questions, reviewing security footage, praising Elena's quick thinking and remarkable language skills that had likely saved Sophie's life. The investigation revealed that the kidnappers had been planning the abduction for weeks, targeting the ambassador's daughter for a $10 million ransom. They had assumed she would be an easy target, protected only by a quiet nanny who seemed insignificant. That evening, after the agents left and the house grew quiet again, Ambassador Harrison sat down across from Elena in the kitchen. His wife stood beside him, holding Sophie close. For the first time since Elena had started working there, they really looked at her. They saw not just an employee, but a person of extraordinary capability and courage. The ambassador's voice cracked when he thanked her, admitting with shame that they had never even asked about her background, never wondered how she came to speak so many languages, or what her life had been before she entered theirs. Victoria Harrison cried as she apologized for treating Elena as invisible, for taking for granted the woman who had shown their daughter more genuine kindness in 3 months than they had managed in the past 3 years. Sophie refused to let go of Elena's hand. The girl looked at her parents with red-rimmed eyes and told them something that made the room fall silent. She said that Elena had saved her life twice, once today from the kidnappers, but before that, from the loneliness that had been swallowing her whole in their big empty house. Elena had seen her when no one else did. Elena had made her feel like she mattered. The Harrisons kept Elena on, but everything changed. They tripled her salary, gave her a proper title as Sophie's companion and language tutor, and enrolled her in night classes to finish the university degree she had always dreamed of completing. More importantly, they started coming home earlier, eating dinner together as a family, listening when Sophie talked about her day. They asked Elena to join them often, welcoming her stories and perspectives, learning from someone who had survived real hardship with grace and dignity intact. The mansion slowly transformed from a museum into a home. Years later, when Sophie gave her high school valedictorian speech, she spoke in 5 languages, switching between them as she thanked the people who shaped her life. She saved her longest remarks for Elena, who sat in the audience crying happy tears, wearing a beautiful dress the Harrisons had insisted on buying her. Sophie told the crowd that her nanny had taught her the most important lesson she would ever learn. That human value is not measured by wealth or status or power, but by the kindness we show when no one is watching and the courage we find when others need us most, that the people we overlook might be exactly the ones who save us in the end. Elena Vasquez never became rich or famous, but she became family to the Harrisons and eventually earned her college degree, then a master's in linguistics. She now works as a translator for refugee organizations, using her gift for languages to help others who feel invisible find their voices. And every week without fail, Sophie calls her, no matter where in the world their lives have taken them, just to talk in whatever language fits their mood that day. Sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to see them. And sometimes it takes a crisis to reveal what was valuable all along. Kindness costs nothing but means everything. Courage lives in unexpected hearts. And the person who saves your life might be someone you never thought to truly see. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that every person has value and that small acts of seeing and appreciating others can change the world. Because kindness is never wasted, and neither are the people brave enough to show it. Thank you for watching, and remember to look closer at the people around you. You never know whose quiet strength might one day save everything you love.